All right, today we're going to jump in a time machine and go way back. Back to one specific, kind of chaotic, but totally pivotal year, 1981. And we're going to uncover the surprising, you might even say accidental, origins of online education. And the best part? We'll see it all through the story of one person's absolutely wild year.
So first, let's just get our bearings. You have to understand, before 1981, the whole idea of learning from home was completely different. We're talking about a world of correspondence courses arriving in your mailbox. Or, maybe catching a special program on the radio or TV. The internet being a classroom? That was pure science fiction.
Okay, so this is where our story really kicks off. It's with a young hardware engineer, a guy named Morten Paulsen, who found himself right in the middle of the personal computer revolution.
So he's working at this company, Mycron, which was basically a hotbed for Norway's future tech talent. I mean, this was the place to be. And he wasn't just clocking in and out, He was a true believer. So much so that he put his own money on the line, betting big on the company's future. And here's where it gets dramatic. This was a massive gamble. See, Mycron was all in on this system called CPM86. It was the industry standard at the time, right? But then, in a move that pretty much shocked everybody, IBM chose this little-known underdog called MS-DOS for its brand new personal computer. And just like that, poof, Mycron's tech and Morten's entire investment became pretty much worthless overnight. I mean, talk about a sudden, brutal industry shift.
But here's the thing. Even with this huge professional disaster, his personal fascination with these new machines, it was just getting started. He went out and bought himself one of the very first home computers, a Commodore VIC-20. And get this, he taught himself how to program using a cassette tape recorder to save his work. I mean, can you even imagine doing that today?
And then, life throws a massive curveball. Just as his tech career is hitting all this turbulence, he gets the call for his mandatory military service. He ends up at the Norwegian Navy, but not doing what you'd think. Nope, he becomes a teacher.
Now, with zero teaching experience, absolutely none, he gets thrown into a classroom. And he's supposed to teach these really complex subjects like chemistry and electronics to a super tough crowd. We're talking about young guys, basically his own age, who could not have cared less about theory. They were all about their weekends.
So, what do? How do you possibly get a class like that to pay attention? Well, you get creative. And his methods, let's just say they were a little unconventional. Chemistry class, it involved literal explosions to get their attention. Lab sessions, they learned how to grill hot dogs by plugging them straight into a 230-volt outlet. And yeah, he once set off a military thunder flash in the teacher's lounge just to make a point. Seriously.
And the craziest part? It actually worked. He wasn't just some wacky teacher. He earned their respect. For his 24th birthday, his students surprised him. They decorated the entire classroom with petunias, in stolen beer mugs of all things, and then sang for him in front of the whole cafeteria. It just goes to show, his totally unorthodox methods built a real, genuine connection.
Okay, so this is the moment. This is where his past in the tech world and his crazy new present as a teacher, this is where they finally collide. So it turns out this military vocational school, of all places, had a surprisingly high-tech setup for 1981. They actually had several microcomputers, and they were all connected together in what we call a local area network, or a LAN. Now, you have to understand, this was incredibly rare back then, especially for a school. So seeing this opportunity, Morten and his colleagues, they created their very first piece of educational software. It was a pretty simple arithmetic game where students would race against each other and the clock to solve problems, and it became a massive hit. The competition for the top spot on that high score list was absolutely fierce. And this brings up a really fascinating question. Think about it for a second. A competitive, networked, educational game in a classroom in 1981. Could this humble little experiment in a Norwegian Navy school actually be one of the very first educational video games ever made? All right, now let's pull the camera back for a second, because while all this little stuff was happening in one small classroom, the world outside was just buzzing with change. 1981 was a year of huge global upheaval. Just think about the headlines that year. You had assassination attempts on both U.S. President Reagan and the Pope. You had the massive royal wedding of Prince Charles and Princess Diana that the whole world watched. For Norway, there was this legendary soccer upset against England, and the state's monopoly on broadcasting officially ended.
It was just this chaotic, transformative backdrop for these very quiet technological beginnings.
Okay, so let's start to tie all these threads together and really look at the bigger picture here. How did this one, single, really strange year end up shaping the entire future?
Think about it. A failed stock bet, these explosive chemistry lessons, and a simple little computer game. When you look back, you realize these weren't just random, disconnected events. They were all crucial building blocks.
What you're seeing here is how 1981, completely by accident, gave this one person the perfect, if totally unconventional education to become a pioneer in online learning. He got deep hardware experience from the tech world, he got real practical teaching insights from that wild classroom, and he got his very first taste of creating educational software on that primitive school network. It all just came together.
And all of this really leaves us with one final thought. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the small, everyday experiments, the personal projects, maybe even the things that feel like failures that are happening all around us right now, that are accidentally planting the seeds for the world we're all going to live in tomorrow?